Yeah, there's an Annapurna joint. Do you ever ask yourself what remains of Edith Finch? It's a long, sad story, and we're going to tell it tonight. This is What Remains of Edith Finch, a game from 2017 that is excellent, heartbreaking, and very dark in places. So before you come on this journey with us, I'm going to give you a couple of content warnings. This is a game with a lot of death. This is a game arguably about death and grief. Nothing graphic happens in this game, really, but it is insinuated. This is not a game with blood. This is not a game where you're going to see a lot of violence on screen, but a lot of it is... There's going to be a lot of sad stories about dying in this game. And a lot of those stories are going to involve children. This is also going to touch on topics of child abuse. So please be careful if you carry on watching. Please be aware that this is a game with a lot of heavy themes. Those are the big ones. But we're also going to be dealing with drug addiction. We're also going to be dealing with... there's going to be some animal death in this game. Is there any illness? There is some illness, yes. Not primarily. Oh, hello, Uzi. Again, nothing, very little graphic and is in this game. Most of this is being told to us. And you'll see how that is. But I'm going to, as much as I possibly can, as much as I remember, I will try to warn before anything particularly. Oh, Uzi. Oh, sweetheart. Thank you so much. You can also use that to support Uzi, who's a wonderful slime. But yeah, this is a game I really am excited for people to see, but I also understand that this is a game that you might not be in the headspace for, and I totally get that. So I'm going to, if you're watching this on YouTube as well, there will be a comprehensive list of content warnings in the description, and I might even put a link to the article on doesthedogdie.com, which has a more comprehensive and spoilery list of everything that comes on if you're really concerned. Which, if you are, then 100% valid. Please don't feel bad about ducking out if this is too much for you. So, with that all said, what remains of Edith Finch?
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
One thing that is nice about this game is that most of it is voice acted, so I don't have to read much.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
It's a cute little mailbox, though.
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
No trespassing.
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe
Hey,
she
you
thought I'd
finished the
know.
Marai milk.
Or she thought the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
If you don't know what Buttercup Bandito is referring to, you can check out my Discord, where they posted some milk. And I'm glad it didn't go to waste.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
Oh, I will also say that from what I was explaining with the content warnings earlier, I would not call this a scary game. This isn't a horror game. Oh, look, deer. This is not a horror game, so you don't have to worry about like stuff like that. There is going to be a section later that is a little bit horror inspired, but I will warn before that.
After I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
I like this one of those first-person games where we can see ourselves.
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it. As a child, the house made me uncomfortable and
Okay, I can bump the audio a little bit. Oh, hang on. Let me.
I couldn't put into words.
All right, let me bump the desktop audio a little bit.
Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
Is the voice sounding a bit better now? Because what I could do as well is that I could bring the music down a little bit. Let's see. Okay. The house has been very overgrown.
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
So, as I mentioned in the pre-show, this is what we used to call a walking simulator. So, it's not going to be a lot of gameplay complexity with this. This is mainly following a narrative path. But, yeah. That used to be a big controversy once upon a time, kids. The games didn't have a lot of gameplay in them. Okay, I don't remember actually where we're going, so we can't unlock that. Maybe it's the garage, actually. Hope everyone is doing okay today. Thank you all for joining me for this. I'm very excited to see what you think of this, and I hope you've had a good week. Sounds good now? Cool, great.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
Oh, that's a cute emote.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home. But instead of a family, there were just memories of one. Like how after Lewis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
Apple pie. God, look how much fish. Look how much old fish. No one's been here for years.
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture. My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great-Grandma Edie living in a nursing home. Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth.
This is a thing about this game as well. Like, this house is obviously, it's basically a character. But the detail on everything here, like, honestly, I could probably spend a full hour just going through just how immaculately designed everything is about this. It's really incredible.
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house. Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Yep, not the basement. Okay, we can... Now here's interesting. Doors have been glued shut.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
So we got Calvin, Gregory, Sven, Edie. And also, yeah, Sven, Swedish name. And here we got Barbara.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Coming back to this, knowing how this all plays out is very interesting. Just all the setup that's happening here. So we can't go into any of the bedrooms. We can go into this one.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up. Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him. Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't made that connection, but you're right. It actually does have a similar vibe.
Milton had been here before me.
Also, all like the way that these characters are introduced through her
Reading
narration.
This, maybe it sounds like I had a plan.
Oh, sorry.
But I had no idea what was behind that door.
Yeah, neither have I. I hear it's
Like
good,
I
but
had no
this
idea
is
what
a
all
similar
this was
vibe
gonna
for sure.
lead. I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole.
December 1947. Goodness. Edie and Sven. Again, just look at all of this detail. This is incredible.
I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time
Molly.
here. Before my mom sealed the doors.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
Yeah, this is, if you have ever been, yeah, this is, how sending you to bed without dinner is one of those like insidious things that are like kind of normalized, and you don't, it's actually so fucked up.
My Halloween candy was all gone.
Yeah, that's the thing with the coziness, like it really is, and yeah, and it sets the tone for what we're about to experience.
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
No need Christopher, look how pretty. Can't eat Christopher.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Now, you might be aware that this is a thing you should not do. If you know that plant, if you know what plant that is,
Then I heard chirping outside my window.
So yeah,
It was a barn swallow
yes.
going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
Oh, we're hungry. We need that bird. I do love this. I do love this purring now.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me. I jumped and I almost got her.
Oh, angry kitty noises.
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
Yeah, if you're... I think you can understand where this is going. But yeah, if you don't want to see Toad's adorable little creatures get eaten.
Rabbits.
Not the Bnui. But here we go.
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
Yeah, the rabbits.
A mama rabbit.
Yeah, another one. Sorry. Birds of prey have to eat
She was
too.
almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
Though holy fuck does this rule. We can control the wiggles. We can wiggle the shark. Give the shark a good wiggle. Wiggle down the hill. Wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. Ooh, go. Woo!
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
Hell yeah. Dun, 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 dun. As a shapeshifter myself,
I wanted
this is
fast,
pretty similar to my
juicy
first
steaks.
experience. Yeah, I believe some of them do. They like snap their necks and then they eat them whole. But it depends on if they're feeding their babies, then they will rip them apart. I'm no expert. Yeah, blow a high. Ah! I wanna blow a high is hungry. Give me. Blow a high spotted. Where did it go? There you are. Oh, here we go. Down the hatch.
Tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good. I grabbed on tight. When I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
Yeah, now we're something very different.
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
God, listen to those slivery sounds. Oh,
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
yeah, knocking over everything. Yum yum. Mm-hmm. I like this idea, like the kind of this Kraken stealth game. Such a good move. Oh, there you are. Whoa. Hi, Captain.
I was passenger. I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Yeah, just looking for some snacks. Just looking for a little nibble. Oh, look where we
I
are.
got closer and closer. All my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
And look what we got. We got a little kitty leading us. Yeah, so this introduces us to the kind of core concept behind the game. Which is that we are going to...
This will be obvious later.
Pardon me?
My mom never told me any of these stories.
We're gonna be...
But Mom didn't like bringing up the past.
We're gonna...
When
For
we
God's
adopted
sake.
a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
So yeah, the concept behind this game is basically this, that we find the stories of these people and then we relive them. And as you may have cottoned on, not a lot of these stories are going to end well.
I spent a lot of time in Great Grandma Edie's room. Her room was like a museum.
We got Law Hands. Again, we're being told about all the different characters that we're going to learn more about. There we got Molly's, 1943, 1944. We got Odin.
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house. Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
Oh, burbs. Norwegian folktales. Yeah, I did say Swedish. I meant to say Scandinavian. So I apologize. Oh, I have one of these.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
It is also, I do want you to really pay attention to a lot of the things that she says early on in this game, because a lot of them have very specific double meanings that we'll get to, that we'll understand later. But once you know where all of this like leads to, every single little thing that Edith says
Even
at this
in
point.
their 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
It becomes very interesting.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
Good lord. I want this so bad. Except for
It was a pretty big trace.
Except for the horrible fur carpet and toilet cover. This is the bacteria trap waiting to happen. But everything else is amazing.
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
Okay. Yeah, this looks like a secret, all right. It's avocado, you cunt.
He never put it down.
I like avocado, but I like baby blue in bathrooms actually. Or like greens is nice. Like kind of like minty greens are nice too in bathrooms. Well, no, what am I thinking of? Like emerald greens, not minty greens. Got Milton. More, lots of stuff here. So we got some photos. Fort Sam. Photography. We got Calvin, who's into space.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
And yeah, all of this, what this
My
game's...
brother said he'd die before he did.
God's sake, stop interrupting me.
And he did.
Yeah, the control schemes are actually really cool.
He swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
So basically...
Calvin, dinner's ready. Coming.
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it.
So yeah, like I'm controlling each side of the swing independently with the sticks, and everything that you do, you have to map the motion in with the sticks. Like kind of like Heavy Rain, except not bad. Like Heavy Rain isn't awful for it, but it's better here.
Was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that.
Calvin, I'm not gonna tell you again.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up. Then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to
she gives
remember
me
about my
vertigo.
brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Yeah, them's physics.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I feel like that is a fairly universal like thing if you're playing on a swing as a child. Like everyone imagines doing that.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
I do like having this like a walkway over your bed. That's neat. And all stuff like this as well. It's so cool. And there's like, oh my god, look at this as well. Like the one stops and the one carries on. Just like, and also like, imagine this, like, they didn't move him out. They didn't move any of his stuff out. They just keep everything, and then you have to live falling asleep facing this side of the room. Yeah. So what is up with all the passages? Yeah, you'd think. It's a giant house.
They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Yeah, it's possible. That is absolutely possible. It's still rough.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara. Edie's father, Odin, built the original house.
So now we basically unlocked this bit, which was... We were here before, but we didn't know that there was... So basically, this is the Metroidvania. Because we've unlocked this travel point. So now we're in
Growing
Barbara's
up,
room.
I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Meow. Meow. Flap, flap, flap. House is pretty cool. I don't know if I want to live in it, but visit? Sure.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
I do want that clock, though. Wow. Meow. Well, do you want to come and cuddle? Me safe from the scary house and all the sad stuff.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally...
Yeah, that's a
the key
true
pops
point.
out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
Thanks,
20
babe.
minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue.
So, yeah, this is the bit...
She reached for the music box.
This is the bit that is horror-inspired, though I wouldn't call it scary
And
necessarily.
as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent. She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
And yes, I am controlling this now. I love this presentation so much. Where are you? Where are you? Rick was my old name.
The
Funny
gang's
enough.
leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
And then yeah, like the fact, yeah. So this blood is just from the accident that just happened.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Oh dear.
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your screen.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you're...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was
That's
still
not very nice, Barb.
when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later,
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
We really need a game that is just this, honestly. I love this look. And just every game should just have the Halloween music because you can't improve on it.
Walter, are you there? Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
Not. She played her part beautifully.
Yeah, considering how the two things that John Carpenter seems to be interested in anymore is video games and making music.
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
Yeah, you want him to score a video game, quite frankly. Get him to score Sonic. He loves Sonic. Hashtag let John Carpenter make the music for a Sonic game. Oh.
Had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard. But that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Oh, come on. Could have been better than that. This is what a lot of true crime feels to me, honestly. Very ghoulish.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
Again, keep all of these things in mind, particularly when, with regards to anything we say about Edie, because I will want to talk about it later. Now, because this is the thing, what we're being told here, what the story is being told about her death, is one thing, similarly to in the first story, where we're being told one thing, we're being shown one thing, we're experiencing this one story, but it's really sort of an allegory for the thing that actually happened. And the thing that actually happened is much more mundane. So in the first story, Molly eats some poison berries and she dies. But she experiences this, she tells this story in a very different way. And here, she gets killed by her boyfriend, who then disappears. But it's being told in a very different way. And that is something that I want you to bear in mind throughout the rest of this game. Yeah, exactly. Monsters didn't kill her. Like, it's... and they even say this right at the end, that it's like, well, yeah, this is a story that we were told, but, I'm not sure I believe that sort of thing. Because if the monsters killed her, then how would we even know?
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
But yeah, we did get a little bit of a hint there, though, that how we're going to get into what we can find in a music box. Exactly. But I specifically, I want to focus about not just the unreliable narration, but the purpose of the unreliable narration. I also really like this. They're like, obviously we would have probably played with this before. And then you kind of come back to it like, yeah, I remember that, because it sticks in your mind. Oh, I'm really glad. I'm really glad you're liking it so far.
It was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
These always scare the fuck out of me. Like, I'm always so impressed. I watch a fair deal of like carpentry stuff on Instagram, because I just find it like interesting to watch. But anytime that anyone works with a table saw, it's so scary to me. Like, they always freaked me out from when I was little.
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
I
thought maybe she was hiding presents.
And then we did see this fridge before.
It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that. I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could.
So this is going to be... This next bit is going to deal with a lot of
pattern in all
neurodivergency,
these
particularly
stories.
depression.
I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
52 to 2005. Okay.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today.
There are a lot of
I
really
was
sad
expected to
stories
be
in this
dead
game, and I think
tomorrow.
this is one of the this is one of the ones that gets me the
But
most.
if you wait
Honestly.
long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone.
Nope, probably
Maybe
not.
I got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
At least take it off properly. But yeah, it would cut yourself really or badly.
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can.
We're gonna look a little bit around the room. Some models down here, model train set. A lot of postcards. A lot of condiments. But yeah, we're at the March 2005. Yeah, the environmental storytelling in this game is like one of the best in any game ever, because that's mostly what it is. I feel like even if you didn't have any of these interludes, like if the game was just walking around in this house and there was nothing else, like it was completely freeform, I think you would still get most of this story, and that is incredible.
I know it's out there somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
Yeah, that one, I don't know. This one is one that really gets me. It's quite a simple one, but it's just I
I'm
find
sure
it
my mom was
so.
trying to protect me.
I find this one particularly. Just the idea of being so scared, or like being so traumatized and so scared that you just completely show yourself off, and then as soon as you open up to it, then it's all over. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I don't think we can go down there. Okay. Fake window. What are you meowing about, sweetheart? Can we not go down it? There we go. Yeah, I thought so. Just didn't give me a prompt. There we go.
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter.
Oh, I accidentally went up again. Oh my god, I accidentally... Oh. Yeah, I keep thinking that I'm meant to hit down and I'm meant to keep pressing up, which is it's kind of weird because you press up to go down a ladder. But there we go. Right, let's go down and have a look.
But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made.
Ooh.
Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself. And found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem.
That's
Maybe
a line we should keep in mind.
We made it real.
That's another line we should keep in mind. And here we go, lol. This is a grave. Or a marker. Also, just the whole thing that he liked toy trains, and then that was what he was actually scared of, and then he went to face it. I should even be writing this.
Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of. Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth.
I guess, well, we get there's something out there that's blinking. Maybe bear that in mind. No one's told me to hydrate, so I have to do it myself.
That history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
But then there's also the question of where the hell was that train going to? Baby, why are you sad? Baby unhappy in behind me.
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Derpy, Derpy Jr., Burpy, Chirpy, Furpy, Lurpy, Zerpy. Zoe, Coco, Tucker, Charlie, Daisy, Lucy. Shatsy, Shadow, Oliver, Bob, Christopher. Oh, there's Christopher. Lived 5 years, so it's pretty good for a goldfish. Not too shabby.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Barbara Finch died on her birthday. It's Walter, it's Edie, Sven, Calvin, Molly. So Molly was 10, Calvin was 11. Sven wasn't very old either.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from.
Here we go, a few
Her dad had been
more.
pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
Gus, these are people we haven't really met yet. We met Sam, but not Gregory or Gus.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us.
It's Milton, Sanjay Kumar, Louis Finch. We didn't hear about Louis.
We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, you might have noticed that when we looked down before. We're quite preggers. And this is a bad idea to do when you're pregnant. I've never been pregnant. It's probably not going to happen for me. But I feel like I'm in a position to still say that don't do this when you're 22 weeks pregnant. Probably not a good idea.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense. Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Theo is currently lying on the floor playing dead. Ooh. Got a purple heart. That's pretty impressive. We'll have a little poke around before we read the book. Ugh. Scary.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
We've got K. So, war photographer, seems like. Seems pretty, we can probably say, seems fairly conclusive.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm? Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged.
Snacker stackers, chocolate malt pudding, hell yeah.
Shouldn't we be leaving?
Just want to get a shot of you, Dawn, then we can take off. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Having a piece. Have a little look at what we got around us. Ooh. Got a campsite over there, looks like.
You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
We've got a beautiful burb. I'll take a picture of my dad.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee. Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Don. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Don, I'm being serious.
Dad!
Good eyes, Don. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Yeah, but where are you, though? Where are you, though? There you are.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target.
Very glad that I never had to go hunting. Extremely glad. I have gone fishing, but then that also made me feel sad. So
you don't have to do anything, but if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Now keep yourself squared up. Great shot, Don.
why take a picture of this?
I'm proud of you, Don. Always remember that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Don. Just gotta reset the timer.
Yeah, it's the thing. So you actually do control him here. This is a timed event. You have to get up there in time before the shot goes.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
some-
normal, Don. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Yeah, I find it hard to imagine something more traumatic than that exact thing. That is so... Oh my god, it's so horrendous. It's like, yeah, I don't think he's ignoring it, but he's doing this kind of like... He's trying to do... Like, this is kind of what I like about this one, is that, like, he clearly has this sort of, you know, strict kind of military guy kind of vibe. But he's not, like, abrasive from what we see of him. But he still has the idea that, like, she has to toughen up. And from what we're going to learn, you know, and obviously, like, with the history of the family and everything, you sort of see his perspective on that. He doesn't seem like a bad guy, but... Yeah, like maybe he was trying in his way, is basically the vibe that I get here. Yes, honey, he was. Then it didn't work out. Didn't work out very well. I can't remember if there's anything else we need to see here. So we can't go through there. No, I think this is it. Right, let's go back out again. Come down. It's a little finicky with the ladders because you have to hit forward to get on them, and then you have to hit back to... We're not going to go down here, are we? Oh, I don't remember this. Where are we going? I must have missed something up in the room. Aha, I did.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
Okay, this is one of the more upsetting parts of the game. If you are... There is nothing graphic that's going to happen, but the implication of harm to a baby. I will say when this section is over, if you want to not view it. It's not particularly long. But this is one of the... When people point out something that is quite disturbing. Nothing disturbing is actually going to happen, but the implication is. So if this is something that you don't want to watch, I will carry on playing, and I will let you know when it's over.
I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
And now we're controlling the frog. You can do little jumps.
Time's over, Gregory. It's time to...
And this is indeed the bathroom we were in before.
Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
this world was like.
Yeah, like the whale, and the whale is following our froggy.
He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was he saw. It sure made him happy.
We got the whale as well. More friends. Yeah, get all the letters in. Fill the tub up. Oh, we got a double jump on the whale. I'm sorry that one of my cats is currently going apeshit. If you can pick that up. Come on.
I know how silly it sounds. But I worried about a baby being too happy.
Oh, it's getting all lathered up. Hello, Impreza. Welcome in.
I know you did everything you could.
Impreza, if you just joined us, please be mindful that this game contains serious harm to children, not graphic, but heavily implied. So if that is something that you are particularly sensitive to, then please do not worry about not watching.
There's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
You can come back now if you wanted to avoid that section. It is indeed over now. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, he says there that, which, you know, to be fair, is him being kind, I think, and that it wasn't her fault. But also, really fucking don't leave babies unattended in baths. Again, I'm not ever going to be a parent, but I feel like I can say that with some certainty. But yeah, please don't. Raise flag, 7:30. Breakfast, 8 p.m. 8 a.m. 8 p.m. Quiet time. I love quiet time. But yeah, you can sort of understand why he would be feeling certain ways about safety.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Got a Bible. Got some little incense burners.
I can't imagine what it was like for her to lose two sons after she'd already lost two brothers.
So that's how we can get down, but we're obviously going to be looking at some stuff first. So we'll
Religion
start.
was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
So what have we got here then? Copy passport for volunteer center, meet with relief rep, after school teaching, pack, fly to India, start volunteering. So this is exactly a year. I was born in June 1986. So this would have been exactly a year after I was born, pretty much.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Lewis was born a year later.
Like the day she left as soon as she could. And yeah, I probably would too.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. And to see kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Our family history, fact or fiction. Analyze objectively, never stop learning, assume nothing, respect criticism, ask tough questions. That's all pretty solid.
But it didn't last.
Sounds like woke to me. Relief efforts end in disaster. Observation, question, research, hypothesis, experiment, data, conclusion. And she even wrote a book.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Hello, Madame Universe. Welcome in. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us. We are playing What Remains of Edith Finch, which is a very sad game about a lot of people dying. Not graphically, but please be aware that if death is a sensitive subject to you, then please watch with care. But you're very welcome to join us. Now, Milton is actually a reference, I believe even a character, in the developer's previous game, which was called The Unfinished Swan. I have not actually played that game, which is kind of silly considering how much I love this one. Maybe I will, and then maybe I'll stream that one too. But yeah, so I think if you've played that game, then this might resonate even more with you. But it's time to find out
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
what happened to Milton. Just chilling. Yeah, we are too, I would say.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
A lot of interesting things here. Obviously, you can see that the style on Milton's portrait is very different from the remaining. He looks a little bit like Doug. But yeah, and we don't find out much about him. And part of this because in the story of the game, he vanished. They didn't know what happened to him. And I believe that the implication is that whatever happens to him is in The Unfinished Swan, which is a game I have not played. I think these drawings might even be places in Unfinished Swan. Yeah, it does look like Doug Funny. It really does.
Mom spent months searching.
Oh, I'm
for
still
it.
sad. I forgot to turn the sad off. I forgot to turn my emotions off. Yeah, here we go. There's the thing. You can even see the footprints leading to it.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
I'd be worried about the structural safety of this. Or the structural integrity, I should say. Let me pop in here. Ooh, now this is more my vibe. Not the bong necessarily, but the neon.
Very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Like the neon and like the bisexual lighting, very much my style. Upcoming now is going to be the heavy implication of suicidal ideation and depression. So if that is something that you're concerned about, I will let you know once this section is over. But yeah, just be mindful. Again, nothing graphic is going to be shown on screen, but may be implied. Maybe implied. It's going to be implied. Because I know what happens.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse.
Oh, and substance abuse, yes.
Sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
I'm going to make a bold statement here and say that this section is one of the best in video games.
But he withdrew part of himself.
I think this is incredible. So
In our session,
I'm controlling
I saw the same behavior.
I'm controlling the arm with the left stick.
His mind began to wander.
And I'm controlling the guy with my left stick. Or with my right stick. Sorry.
He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about.
When people talk about this game, this is usually the thing they go on about. And you're going to see why.
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him.
And then that the fantasy is taken over.
He told me he'd made a new friend.
Also, like it's getting more detailed.
On the edge of a city he named Louis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play.
Yeah, I'm not exaggerating when I say that this is one of the best sequences in a video
starting
game.
a band.
I don't think that's hyperbole.
And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger.
And I can't really adequately
He no longer
show this
spoke of the
without you
cannon.
playing it. Like, playing this, it's incredible.
But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. We started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
And yes, Lewis is by.
beautiful prince. The prince was on his own quest for
Radiant rainbows! Literally.
radiant rainbows.
Hell yeah. Oh, I missed that one. God damn it. Fuck. Whoops.
He followed the sound of his
Like this is sitar. Let's go for the sitar.
electric sitar. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
Viking. Oh.
Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. Began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
There he is.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who had insisted on inviting him. His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Yeah.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
That one is... I mentioned before that the Walters story was one that hit me a lot. This one hit me more than almost anything ever has in a video game. I think that sequence is masterful, and I think that if you're not playing it, you don't get it fully, but it's still just the way that the fantasy world gets more and more detailed, and you get further and further into it, and it takes over the screen, and you barely even notice, and you really do develop the rhythm with your right hand, with the right stick to do the repetitive work at the cannery, and you as a player experience exactly what Lewis does, which is that you get more involved in the fantasy, but you carry on doing the real life repetitive task at the same time without even really thinking about it.
My mom told me to start packing.
It's yeah, I don't know. I could honestly talk about that sequence for 2 hours.
She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
It is
I'm not sure if
fantastic.
she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance, or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
And that is the end of the game. We're gonna let the credits start playing. And yeah, I don't know what you all thought about that, but yeah, this game hits, I think. I think this really hits. So essentially my take on this, and I think this is there were a couple of lines early on in the game that I wanted you to pay particular attention to, specifically regarding the stories being what remains of everyone, which is the name of the game. What we saw here is effectively what remains of Edith Finch, which is the story of her ending. She dies very shortly after the game we just experienced, and all of the stories that she finds over the course of the game are also what remains of those people, namely the endings they left behind. But there's also the line specifically about whether or not they believed in these stories so much that they made them real. And there are plenty of hints to that, specifically with regards to Edie. There's a push and pull between Edie and Dawn as to where Edie wants to nurture these stories. She wants to keep them alive to the point where she basically makes them come true, right? And that starts infecting the younger generations. That is the implication as I take it. That the earlier generations, they die through accidents, more or less. Whereas the younger generations, they become almost like these stories infect them so much that they feel more real than reality. That is what the Lewis story ends up being, that he felt like the real me is the me that I'm imagining, because that's the story I'm telling about myself, not the person who actually exists in real life. And that's why Dawn decides to leave, because she realizes, or at least the way that she sees it, is that the stories are the reason why people keep dying. They keep making up these tragic narratives about themselves, and then they become self-fulfilling prophecies, similarly to what Walter does. And I find that so just startling, and like almost, it's a very dark tone. It's a very dark thing to end on, but I also don't think that it's saying we shouldn't be telling stories, or we shouldn't be, everything should just be tied to reality all the time. Because I think that Edith, I think, sort of represents the middle ground there. It's like, why do we tell stories? Well, we tell stories to remember things and to remember the people who existed. And the way that she interprets the stories aren't necessarily that she says, I believe that the people who told them were real. They believed them. I don't think that I do, but they did. And I think she is meant to be the balancing act between there is value in telling stories about ourselves and the people, and the people who are no longer here. But those stories can't control us. They can't define us. They can't be everything. Because there are a lot of really grim things, like the idea of like the baby dying, and he kind of goes like, oh, he had this whole imagination, and like it wasn't your fault. But yeah, it was. You left a baby unattended in a bath. Like, I mean, I don't mean to be like, horrible to people who've gone through that, because it's obviously very traumatic, but it's like, that's not a cutesy story. The fact that the game does the pretty audacious thing of turning a horrible thing like a baby dying into such a like a really kind of twee sequence, that's meant to make you feel horrible. Like, that juxtaposition is meant to be just like, it's meant to make you feel shit. Yeah, I missed Gus. I didn't realize you could miss Gus, but Gus, yeah. Somehow I was able to. I didn't realize you could actually miss stories. What I'll do is I'm gonna post. I will post that one on the Discord. But I actually didn't realize that was a thing that could happen. That you could actually. It's not a super important story for the overall narrative, but basically, yeah, I find that to be really interesting. And there are some people who go so far to say that Edie is the villain of this story, but I think that's a little bit too far. But I do think that a lot of things that she does is pretty reprehensible, and particularly with the how she wallows so much in. And wallows so much in these tragic stories as if there's something, as if they are beautiful, when really what they are tragedies. These are almost all very young people dying in very traumatic circumstances, and people around them being traumatized by it. And Dawn sees that in a very literal sense of, no, this is killing us. The way that we're viewing all these people's stories is actively causing us to repeat them. Whereas Edie just finds the romance in it. And I find it so interesting that in the last story, we never find out what that even was about. We don't know what was Edie actually going to tell us at that point. And it doesn't matter, because the point is that, like, okay, we don't get to find out. The point is that Edie vanishes. We never see her again. Yeah, it's glorifying the tragedies, exactly. And then, so that's why Milton vanishes, because he vanishes into his own painting. He paints himself escaping through his own art. And Lewis loses himself in his imagination. I think the Lewis bit is so perfect because, like it says, he goes, well, the imagination is real, not reality. So like the curse of the family is how they relate to these tragedies. And like the whole idea of like that they have a comic book made and turned into like entertainment when a young woman was killed by her boyfriend. Like that's reprehensible. Like that, like in the game, that's like a fun sequence. But in real life, that was an incredibly tragic, gruesome thing that happened. And Edith treated it like that was like, oh, that's just part of what happens in this family. Like, you know, she saw it as a happy ending. Like that's literally something that Edith says. And it's not. Like you can't interpret that as a happy ending in any way. It is just a tragedy. There's nothing good about it. And the way that I feel like it's like ultimately it's about stories, but it's also about how you approach death, I think. And I think it's sort of taking things too far in either direction. I don't know. I could genuinely go on about this game for a long time. I love this game. I'm so glad that I finally got to share it with you. I'm sorry that I missed a bit of it, but I am going to put this final section in the Discord. I'm so sorry that I missed this one, and I'll link to it down below in the description if you're watching the YouTube one. But I'm gonna that is gonna be us. That's gonna be us. That is gonna be us. That's gonna be it for this week. I'm so glad that I'm back streaming. I'm so glad that you've all been here. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here, SVC. It's always great to have you here. I always appreciate all of you being here, everyone who's been lurking as well. I'm going to see who we can send you off to. And you too, Dempressa, thank you. And Leva and Dappling, both appreciate you both so much. I appreciate all of you so much. They're none of my very close friends are currently streaming, but someone who I do, someone who is very good and who's playing a game that some of you may be familiar with. Oh, hang on. Did I type that wrong? Oh, I typed that wrong. Celia Murr is playing Chrono Trigger. I don't usually get to raid into them because they don't usually stream at the same time that I am. But we're going to raid over to Celia Murr, a wonderful Murr person who's playing Chrono Trigger, a game that I probably should finish on stream at some point because it's been well over a year since last time. But next week we'll be back, and next week is going to be really special. I've got a surprise for you. We're going to do some really cool games, and something very unusual for this channel is going to happen that I'm really excited for, and I hope you are going to enjoy it. But until then, I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and until next time, bye bye.